Hey there, my name's Wyatt Pike. I'm a 19-year-old singer-songwriter from Park City, Utah. I just released my debut EP. It's called Brand New Boy. I'm excited to share with you some of the recording process and the steps it took to get to release. So, check it out. Thanks for watching. I'm going to start this whole thing out by talking about the studio that the record was made at. It's called Pale Horse Sound down in Sugar House, Utah. The guy that runs it, Greg Downs, is just an all-star. He records, mixes, masters, engineers, does it all. He owns the studio. He's a great guy. And I actually met him March-ish, 2019. I played bass with the Backseat Lovers for a show there and knew that he had done a great job with their record, so reached out to him in December 2019, and we got the ball rolling, and we're recording by February. The whole recording process started out with scratch tracks. I made those in my bedroom at home with a couple of mics I had lying around, and took my guitar and just played through the songs with metronome. Served as a guide to create the whole rest of the song on. You basically layer on top of it, and then by the end you don't need the scratch track anymore. So that's where that started. The first day in the studio was February 5th, 2020. We started with drums that day on top of the scratch tracks. I'd played percussion through all high school, so I had a bunch of training on concert snare and other sorts of drums and keyboard instruments, but I tried to warm up a little bit on an old suitcase I have with some drumsticks. That didn't go very well. It felt nothing like a drum, but I guess it got my wrists moving. And I went into the studio thinking I could ace the parts I wanted to, the parts I had visioned in my head, and I just couldn't do it. I was really struggling to play drums, and it was almost embarrassing, and so Greg and I slowly navigated through simplifying the drum parts, and a lot of the drum parts on the record are pretty simple, but it's just a matter that I couldn't play anything more complicated and wanted to play the drums, and didn't have a drummer that could come in and do it that day. So played all the parts for the drums. They're all pretty simple, and it was pretty fun to navigate that. The next day in the studio was all tracking bass over drums and the scratch tracks. I've played a bunch of bass, played for the Backseat Lovers last year, and went in and played the parts pretty much how I wanted to, and was definitely writing them a little bit in there. Greg and I were bouncing ideas back and forth, but those came together pretty well. I did have this grand plan of filming the whole recording process, and that didn't go so well. I got distracted by making the music, so didn't want to invade in on myself and Greg too much as we did that studio magic, but I've got some footage from other instruments, but none of bass. On the guitar. The guitar is definitely the centerpiece of the record, along with vocals. All the tunes were written on my old acoustic guitar. I actually ended up taking a loan from my mom to buy a slightly nicer acoustic guitar for recording. Definitely still paying that one off. But we recorded all the acoustic guitar parts. That went pretty smoothly. I definitely had them down. I'd practiced a bunch. It took maybe more takes than it should have, but we definitely got what I was going for, and I think it worked out pretty well. Next up was electric guitar. In general, I've played a lot more acoustic, so it's a little foreign. Obviously, it's the same instrument, but I definitely don't have all the soloing and fancy chops I wish I had. So I went in thinking I'm this rock star and tried to play all these complicated guitar parts, and Greg called me out in the best way possible. Hey Wyatt, we're not trying to make a guitar record. We're trying to make this vocals, singing, lyric oriented record. So he called me out there, and that was so helpful to just let the guitar parts be in addition to what we've already created as opposed to the centerpiece. So tracking those electric guitar parts was a mental challenge to simplify these grand ideas I had and couldn't play. So that was a slightly defeating day, because I went home thinking, I kind of overdid it, and it wasn't exactly what I wanted, but I ended up listening to the rough mixes on the way home and got re-inspired and felt awesome going in the next day and banged out the rest of the guitar parts. As the record came along, Greg and I realized that some piano could be cool, kind of hidden within some of the tracks. Initially that wasn't the plan. It was just going to be bass, drums, guitars, and vocals, all parts that I could play. But I'm not a great piano player, so I invited a friend, Will Sangster. He's just a rock star, plays a lot of blues and all kinds of great piano. And he came in, we had rehearsed the night before. I think he had an hour or an hour and a half before he had to make it back up the canyon to work. So we basically set him up, and Greg and I sat in the control room and just said, yep, keep playing, and did as many takes as we could while he was there. So there's piano on a couple tunes, and that's a special thank you to Will Sangster.
Hi, Greg. We're recording piano.
On the day that we recorded bass, this descending bass line into the chorus of Deeper Into Love came out of my fingers. And Greg and I both liked it and realized the more we listened to it that it would be cool to add some horns in there and just kind of add more depth. So I invited a friend, Zane Peterson, who's an amazing saxophone player, and he came in, total pro. I think we tracked the whole, small line, but we tracked the whole thing in about 45 minutes, which felt very quick in studio time. And he played it on alto and tenor and super quick and easy. So thank you, Zane, for that. I love that sax line. I wish I could play it myself. The mixing and mastering process was way quicker than I would have imagined. I sat in the control room and basically just watched Greg work his magic, just in awe over how much goes into it and how good it can sound after he does it. And I remember getting the first master back. He had texted it to me super late, I think maybe midnight or 12:30, and I had woken up later in the night, maybe at 1 or 1:30, saw it and listened to it, and it just blew my mind. I couldn't really sleep for the rest of the night, and it was so special to get that first taste of what the record was going to sound like. After I got the masters back, it was all about creating a visual world for the EP and what it was going to look like, what it was going to feel like. And a friend of mine, Blake Becken, who's an amazing photographer, offered to help me out and take some photos of me. And I had this idea for the album cover being, I'm going to hold this red ice cream, it's going to be on a cone, and it's going to melt all over my hand, it's going to be snow all around me, it's going to be super weird and not make any sense. And I don't know why I wanted to do that, but that was the idea. So we went and we shot that, and they were great photos. They were super cool. But we ended up, there were a few photos from the end of that shoot that were more the look I was going for and the vision I had. So we ended up doing another shoot in Emigration Canyon, and that's where we got the photo for the album cover. Funny story about that first shoot with the ice cream. I hadn't eaten enough that day and got all lightheaded and dizzy and went to sit down on the side of the trail and couldn't see straight. I couldn't think. I was just about to pass out. And Blake saved my ass with a Cliff Bar, so stocked up on Cliff Bars after that. Thanks, Blake, for helping me out there. Next, it was onto the single cover. I reached out to a friend of mine, Stephen Vargo, who took some photos of me last fall for Park City Magazine. And he had posted this white coffee cup with a white lid over a white background, and it was super interesting. For whatever reason, I really liked it. And so I reached out to him and I said, hey, can we do something similar for the single cover? And he was totally game. And so I went down to a print shop, we rolled out a big piece of white paper, put the hat on it, and he worked his magic with a lens. And it turned out great. So thank you, Stephen, for that single cover. That was super fun and super interesting to see that process. So thank you. Well, I sit here with 3 more days until the EP comes out, and it's been a dream come true. And I keep saying that these songs have written themselves for 19 years. It's really only been 12. I have this first memory of writing a song. I was 7, sitting at my family's piano, writing about my cousins. They had just left town, and it was, wish you were here to see me cry, to see me die for you. I miss them. I wanted them to still be in town, right? Very dramatic, kind of ridiculous, but definitely sparked this love for writing and for playing and just music in general. So since then, it's always been a dream to release music, to play music, and listen to music, anything music. I'm all for. So it's all coming together now. 3 days, and it's just a dream come true. I can't wait to give you these songs. So thanks for listening to them in advance. I do want to extend a thank you to my family, my mom, my dad, my sister, my uncle, my aunt, all of the above, for always encouraging me to do this music thing and lighting the path to do it. So thank you. And also a thank you to Greg Downs, Will Sangster, Zane Peterson, Jack Park, Blake Becken, Stephen Vargo, and everyone else that helped me to make this record a reality. I could not have done it without any of you, and thank you. And finally, let's talk about the name of the record, Brand New Boy. I wrote Deeper Into Love 2 days before I went into the studio. It was after a bunch of months of not being in school, of playing a bunch of music, and really living the life I wanted to. And through that, I realized I needed to be a kinder person. Through high school, I can say I wasn't, and definitely wasn't the realest, definitely wasn't the nicest, and it's something I regret. So I think through taking time to discover myself and realize what I want to do, it was a catalyst for being a nicer person, and I guess falling deeper into love and trying to be the nice guy. So that's where the album name Brand New Boy comes. You can listen to the end of that song and it kind of explains itself. Brand New Boy, that's the name of the record. There it is.
I'm happy as this brand new boy. I'm happy as this brand